You know, the fights of the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, Andor even. I'm stepping it up. I'm setting a new standard for what it's going to be like in Star Wars when people expect action. Leslye Headland has been making the rounds and has been saying a lot in terms of past interviews as well as new interviews when it comes to how many Jedi there are going to be in the show. We have more Jedi than you've ever seen in other Star Wars content. But at the same time, I think you can see more morally ambiguous characters than in any other Star Wars content. And I think I can say this pretty confidently. I don't think you're going to see action in other shows the way that you see it used and utilized in our show. She's just calling him out, man. Oof. She's coming in guns blazing and is like, you know, the fight on Geonosis with all of the Jedi? Well, hold my beer, non-alcoholic beverage, and let's just see what I do. Mm-hmm. Also, you know, the fights of the Mandalorian in Book of Boba Fett, Andor even. I'm stepping it up. I'm setting a new standard for what it's going to be like in Star Wars when people expect action. I have seen the teaser, the one that they had at Star Wars Celebration. And I can say from that, the amount of intrigue and the amount of creative filmmaking with the fight scenes, think more Force-assisted like martial arts rather than exclusive lightsaber fights. You're going to be seeing more of that almost like Avatar The Last Airbender fights, where you see more of the creativity and how they utilize the Force than we've seen in any other series.
I think that makes sense, though. Like, this is taking place kind of at the very peak of
It's the golden era for the Jedi.
Yeah. So this is like pull no punches kind of thing. Like, I feel like when we see the Jedi moves and things like that in like the original, or not even
if we see it in like Clone Wars prequel era, we see an institutionalized Jedi. So we see you choose a type of lightsaber style, and that's what you use. And that's going to determine how you fight. If we go back a few hundred years, we're going to see the Jedi utilizing the Force in ways that we've never seen on screen before, and maybe have never seen in Star Wars before.
And it makes sense because they're still making this what they'll end up putting in textbooks for the later on Jedi. You know, like this is what they're creating. Like this is the creative time for both lightsaber and Force wielding things.
And that's what excites me so much about this show. And she says it here. It's Star Wars is always some version of the underdog versus the institution. And she's flipping it. The institution is the Jedi. It's the height of the Jedi. It's the High Republic. It is the idea of this shining city on a hill. What does it look like from the other perspective, from a different point of view? And what does it look like for someone who believes they're right to fight the institution of the Jedi, who also believe they're right, but maybe not exactly, if you look at it from a certain point of view?
It's going to be really interesting because she says how you're going to get so many Jedi, but also so many more like morally ambiguous. Like
gray Jedi.
Right? Yeah. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see, especially seeing how this is going to be from the dark side perspective. How are we going to root for in the end of it? You know, like who are we supposed to root for? Good? Bad? Doesn't matter? I don't know.
I think it's very dependent on how they structure the show. And again, we have theories, rumors, reports that this show could go on for multiple seasons. So if they set it up into this way where we get the foundation of the characters, we get a foundation of the world that we're building in, we have a complete story, but it's continuing into these other mediums and it's continuing later on in the same show in a different season that has a completely different perspective and viewpoint from what we see in the Mandoverse. I think that is really exciting.
Yes. Same.
And that's why, like, when talking about this specific show, I think this is the most exciting we're going to be about Star Wars. We don't know what it's going to be. This is a timeline we've never seen in live action. This is a time frame where we've only seen in the comics and the books and a little bit when it comes to Jedi Survivor. But this will be a clear understanding of the time frame and the grit and the reality of what it was like for there to be this many Jedi in the galaxy.
It's going to be really exciting to see. And honestly, I'm ready for some Jedi. I need some Jedi action in my life.
And different experiences with those Jedi, because I feel like we've obviously in Mando season 3 we got the whole idea with Ahmed Best and his viewpoint of the Jedi, and then we see Obi-Wan in a very different perspective around the Jedi and Order 66, and we see like these different perspectives around Order 66, and we're probably going to see another flashback when we hear about the Dark Dudes fight and
in
survival
Ahsoka.
of Order 66
Yes,
in Ahsoka.
yes.
We're probably going to see another montage around Order 66.
So it's going to be so nice to not have Order 66 hanging around.
Yeah. Yes, it makes sense that we're seeing one of the biggest massacres in the galaxy. Yes, we're going to see it from multiple perspectives, multiple points of view, but I think it's going to be nice when we have something different. And I feel like that's when you're like, oh, let's do something with the prequels. It almost feels like they have to have something to do with Order 66.
Yeah.